Good day and welcome to this Zummit related to how do you fund your ministry. My name is Roger Leip. I'm here in Southeast Missouri now after a long stint in Southern Illinois. My guest today, there may be others joining us, but already the team chaplain for Drake University football up in Iowa, David Applegate, is with us. How are you today, David?
Hey, doing great. It's a gorgeous day up here today in Des Moines.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I was out early this morning for a walk, and it was bright and clear and very brisk. Beautiful start to a morning in November.
Yeah. Fall colors are amazing up here this time of year.
I'll bet. I'll bet. I had a long drive a couple of days ago and got to see tons of that in the forests of southeast Missouri and
Oh, I
southern
bet.
Illinois. It was beautiful. Awesome. Well, let's talk about how do we fund ministry, and we'll discuss some of our best strategies, best tools, some tips for doing things, some things to think about as one is building a strategy for funding his ministry or her ministry. And we'll talk about some pitfalls, things to avoid in that process. Some things that may seem like they're a good idea are often not so good, in fact. And we'll discuss some of those things. Just joining us now from out in Denver, Colorado is Brad Kenny from Soccer Chaplains United, serving professional soccer teams in the U.S. With sports chaplaincy. Also joining us, I'm not sure, I can't see who that is. Is that you, Robert? Oh, you're muted. It's Pastor Robert Harris from down at Austin P University in Tennessee. Morning, guys.
Morning. Good morning.
Yeah. Again, we're talking about how to fund your ministry. That's going to vary differently, probably depending on one's station in life as well as one's location and how one goes about ministry. But guys, three big ideas we're going to talk about. What are those best strategies and tools that you use? Secondly, are there some tips you would have just in general? Hey, these are good things to do. And then lastly, are there pitfalls to avoid? Things, oh, don't do that. That's a bad idea. Let's start by David. You work for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. FCA has a pretty well prescribed way of going about this. Could you describe for us what you guys believe to be those best strategies and tools?
Yeah, we have a combination of a number of things. We have a unique situation. We have seven staff in a pretty concentrated area. And so we have our home team is the foundation for FCA and getting out and having coffees and building relationships and getting to know people and getting them on our home team. And then we also do what we call IPAs. It's income producing impact producing activities. And like we have two luncheons scheduled for in December, and it's to gather current donors and friends of the ministry and just give them an update on the ministry, give them some highlights we've gone in the year, but then encourage them to bring a friend along or somebody that maybe doesn't know about the ministry. So it's an easy invite. They can come hear about what's going on, and then we do kind of a lighter ask. And then we still do banquets. We have a large banquet in April, and we've really grown that over the years. And we have Steve Sinking's our state director and does a really good job leading that with the input of the staff here. So we kind of meld those together, and then we are trying to do it kind of as a group here locally, a little more the mission at the organizational funding the FCA has kind of been talking about lately here, just because we have so many staff in a concentrated area. But
Yeah.
the foundation is the home team giving, building relationships, getting out, meeting people, talking to them, getting them interested in the ministry, and then the funding will follow from that.
Yep. And when you say home team, if people aren't familiar with that language, it's mostly recurring donors, people who
Yes,
are giving monthly or
yes,
annually, but they're recurring donors that
correct.
stay connected with you for a long time. That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Brad, how does that work with you guys in either your ministry centrally as well as your chaplains who are serving all over the country? How do they fund their ministries?
Yeah, currently we have 30 volunteer chaplains, but not all of them fundraise through us. And so
Okay.
we have a little bit of I call it an exoskeleton, so people can put on sort of what they need. We
Uh,
have a few chaplains who fundraise a stipend along with their expenses, and then most of our chaplains just raise expenditures. So yeah, this time of year is really about fundraising. It's key because
mhm.
it's end of calendar year. Giving Tuesday occurs here in a few weeks, as well as in Colorado, where we're founded, we have Colorado Gives Day, so it's a statewide giving
Okay.
push. And myself and our board really kind of utilize this as we're in the off season for soccer, or some of our teams are.
Yeah.
We have a few in the playoffs still, but those that aren't, it really becomes a time of rest and a type of recouping and starting that fundraising cycle.
Good. Good. Pastor Harris, you're a local pastor, but you probably also incur some expenses in how you serve there at Austin P. Can you tell us how you go about funding those things?
Yes. Are you talking about my personal ministry or with?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my personal ministry. Um, really, it's really by faith and the leftover of my check I get every. So that's about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a dollar here, a dollar there.
Yep.
I do the best of what I got.
Yep. Gotcha. That's the way it is with almost all the chaplains in all the world. Most all of us are volunteers, and a lot of us
Yeah.
do whatever we're doing right out of our own pockets. And in some cases, we have uh, a role with a parachurch ministry, or sometimes in a church that may fund part of our role. But that's really good. Are there particular tools in doing that are most helpful for you? Like my own personal thing, when I worked for FCA for all those years, I really worked hard to get what Dave called home team, those recurring donors, to get to where they could make their gifts via a lot of electronic funds transfer, like a bank draft or a credit card draft monthly, because those things they never forget to write a check because it's electronic. It makes it really simple, and those things are very seldom canceled. Frankly, uh, occasionally I would lose one because the credit card expired or something, but those kind of
Wow.
recurring gifts via electronic funds transmission or credit cards were really, really, really helpful. Are there other tools that you found to be helpful, Brad, Dave?
Yeah, I something else I forgot to mention that we've been really intentional the last few years is partnering with local churches. Like I
Good.
said, we're a parachurch organization,
Yeah.
and I do my chaplaincy through FCA. But we really want to partner with other churches because we know we're not the church, and we encourage all our athletes on campus to get plugged into a local church. And so part of that is we've been reaching out to churches just not to ask what can they do for us, but how can we help you in your ministry? And really from our heart, what are you doing locally? How can we partner together?
Good.
And once we develop that relationship, and it's not just about the money, but typically once we get to know them and they see we can be involved in ministry together and we're trying to help them, then the funding can follow. And like you talked about the AMPs, it's a regular systematic giving. When you get on the budget from a church and they want to support you, that's the same thing. That comes in monthly every month. And typically once you're in with a church, we still maintain that relationship. We don't do it just for the money. But once it starts coming in, it's pretty dependable. And that's something we're really, really trying to grow because not only helps the funding, but it helps us in our ministry find volunteers, um, other resources, like these luncheons we do it. We're really blessed. Our office is in a church right near Drake,
Oh,
and they've got space that we can use for our luncheons, for meetings, for our studies. And so it's a great partnership, and that all kind of partners together. The funding piece fits in there nicely.
that's really good. Brad, you talked about having an exoskeleton for your team chaplains and for your ministry more in general. Is the website and a way to donate through the website a part of that?
Yeah, so we have through our sort of donor vehicle, which is PushPay, we
Okay.
have different funds that we can create. And with those funds, that's how we kind of donors can donate toward a specific project or a specific team. So that's one of the ways we do it. Related to church partnerships, we also have about 15% of our budget comes from church financial support. And we've got a program where when teams give us old leftover gear, as most U.S. Sports teams go through a uniform or equipment recycle every few years, usually give those things to us donated to the chaplains. So then we tell our church partners, hey, look, when you do mission, we've started to inventory and categorize the things that we have. Come shop and take these things on mission that you're doing around the world and locally. And that's one of the ways that we partner together as well. Sometimes the churches also will give us office space. Many of our chaplains who don't fundraise, their churches actually let them use their pastoral budgets for coffees and books, Bibles, those kinds of
wow.
meetings with players. So we view that also as church partnership because they're essentially allowing this full-time pastor or full-time minister to go and do the work 5 to 15 hours a week to spend time. Some of that creeps into their personal family time, but that's again one way that we see and realize partnership with the church locally in supporting the chaplaincy work that we're doing.
Yep, that's excellent. The pastor's time is, in essence, a gift in kind from the church to your ministry. That's really good. Also joining us today is our friend Gerard from Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, Gerard. See if he's where he can speak to us. There he
Yes,
is.
good morning to you, to all of you gentlemen. Yeah, Roger, thank you for hosting this Zummit, sorry. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm happy to be here and great to be here. So thanks, Roger.
good. Gerard, what have been some of the best strategies for you being outside the U.S., the only one on our conversation from outside the U.S.? What have been some of your best fundraising strategies for your ministry?
The majority of our support comes from individuals, local churches, and Christian businessmen.
Gotcha.
Um, the those are our primary sources of income,
Okay.
and we haven't gotten to the point where we do what you call fundraising events per se,
Yeah.
but those primarily. So it's through personal fundraising efforts with those three groups of persons.
Good. Good. I'd like to drop in a few simple tips here that I've found across my 31 years of doing this that are massively helpful to understand and to employ. Um, the first of those, and I'll ask you guys for your tips as well. The first of those is there's a principle of mathematics called the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle, the Pareto rule, which means that 80% of outcomes tend to come from 20% of inputs. And I tested that in my donor base across 3 years, looking at all my donors, how much of the gross funds that come to our ministry came from how many donors. And it turned out to be 83 and 17. Not exactly 80-20. In fact, it was more weighted toward 17% of the donors donated 83% of the money that came to us. So what's the point? Part of the point is be really good with that 17%. They're the ones who continue to fund you. They're the ones who continue to build in the best part, the biggest part of your ministry. Be great with those people. I worked hard across all those years to build a broad, stable funding base as opposed to being built on one or two mega donors. No, I built it really broadly, but it still fit this 80-20 rule. And because of that, it's really important that I know who that 20% is, and I am careful to make sure I communicate well with them because that probably stands to even grow that portion. That's one. Number two, I learned from one guy. He said, say thank you probably 5 times for every gift that you get. Wow. Say thank you 5 times for every gift that you get, whether it's a phone call or it's a text message, it's a card, it's a gift, it's whatever. Find ways to say thank you 5 times for each gift. That's a helpful thing. And lastly, most poignantly for this time of year, 80% of money that comes to U.S. nonprofits comes in November and December. This time of year is huge for funding one's ministry. And so I would really encourage you, pay close attention to what's happening in this season. Some folks will delay their gifts till the end of the year. As Brad mentioned, Giving Tuesday is a big thing, Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Other people do different kinds of emphases at this time of year, but it's really wise to make a strong push, communicating what your ministry is doing, telling your story at the end of the year can have a profound impact, probably even more than the second Tuesday in April. This time of year is just strategic. Any tips that you would add, Brad, to from your point of view?
Yeah, right now, my board, we're doing we call it Thanks for Giving campaign, and
Good.
we actually don't make an ask. What we do is we just do the phone call and say thank you. It's been 10 years since I left full-time church staff, so we've gone back 10 years and said anyone who gave a gift, no matter the size, we're just going to call them, say thank you, because at one point you pushed the mission forward. And
Good.
then we're going to ask them, how can we pray for you? What are
Good.
things going on in your life? And then what ends up happening, I give my board members a few talking points if it's appropriate, if they ask, if
Yeah.
it's not just leaving a voicemail.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get the person who goes, "Oh yeah, I meant to make my gift this year." We get a few of those.
Hmm.
But I'm curious, Roger, too, because I see it on the Zoom behind you on the bookshelf. How much do book sales help you supplement? Because I feel like sometimes with smaller ministries or maybe an individual, sometimes you can supplement your income streams, and you might get to this later, I don't know, but how much do you find that the sort of the side projects, because we've got a few books and we start to notice that those, sometimes they'll replace a donor who's giving $25 a month. There'll be someone who bought a few books, and now we have that little bit of income trickling in as well. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I could. I think that's significant more in terms of impact of people understanding what your ministry does than being a financial impact. That's been of negligible value to me, frankly, from that standpoint. But um, it has been helpful in that I'll hear from donors, "Hey, I've been reading that book that you sent me, or I've been reading this thing that you were that's helping me do X, Y, or Z." So I find that the book process and all of that has more benefit in terms of them understanding what we're doing and buying in more deeply than it does any direct financial impact. Good thought. Dave, anything you would add there as a tip or something that's important to do?
Yeah, just a couple things. I love that how I pray for you. Thanks for sharing that. That's something that, it's not, we're not always asking them how can we pray for you? And
Yeah.
that's a great tip. I love that. We love to get people involved in the ministry. We try and find lots of ways to get them plugged in, whether it's being a character coach or volunteer at a huddle or open their house up. Because the more they know about the ministry and get involved in the ministry, then they're more likely to be a donor in the ministry. So we
Yeah.
work
Good
to get
call.
people involved in the ministry. We do these impact producing activities. We started doing, like I mentioned, and just have people come to say thanks. We just want to tell you thanks for being part of the ministry. And if you know someone that doesn't know about the ministry, bring them along. And that's a
Yeah.
way to get kind of outside of our original circle. And then we just started this. I kind of fell into this, and it probably seems like a no-brainer, but trying to connect with parents whose kids were impacted by our ministry.
Huh.
Summer, I officiated a wedding for one of our young football guys. Dad lived in Oklahoma, was familiar with FCA, ended up being a donor because of the ministry we did with his son Hudson. I thought,
Nice.
those are people that were directly impacted by the ministry and have capacity. Drake's a private school, and there's people with
Yeah.
capacity here. And so we're trying to target that a little bit more. So
Good. Yep. I thought of one other thing that was really important to me across my 27 years with FCA is I would identify each fall, usually in October, who are the top 20 to 25 donors per that in that given year. And I would make a point to go see them between Thanksgiving Day and New Year's Day. I would go see each one of them in person, say thank you. No agenda. I'm not going to make an ask. I'd usually take whatever kind of information we had recently, but to go see them, get a personal thank you face to face was a huge thing and led to some of those folks saying, wow, well, you know what? I've been thinking about increasing my donation and things like that were remarkable and built the relationship with the donor beyond a transaction to more of a depth of relationship that was they knew we genuinely appreciated them and didn't see them just as the money machine. That was really helpful. Um, Gerard or Pastor Harris, any thoughts that you have related to those ideas or tips that you have? Oh, Pastor, you're muted. I'm sorry.
Good.
There you go.
All right. So, one of the things, well, a few things, but I'm very serious about being transparent about what I do. I don't just talk about needs. I show impact. I share stories, transformational stories, testimonies, lives that have been touched by people. I build relationships. Every person interested in funding the ministry should feel being a part of the ministry.
Yeah.
I stay visible and consistent on Facebook, my Transform portal. So now people are watching, they're looking, and now I have been in touch with three organizations who's very interested in my ministry.
Nice.
And now I am bringing about 30 other pastors around me to be a part of this organization that's coming after me. So,
Excellent.
and then diversity in content and platforms. So I have a mix of what I do: podcasting, social media, events. Working with other churches, sports ministries,
Mm-hmm.
building credibility. All of that has worked for me for over 7 years.
Oh, good.
And so now I am right now working on my marketing piece.
Gotcha. Good. Gerard, anything you would throw in as a tip for this angle?
Um, yeah, so thanks again, Raj. Basically, what we do is I try to share our newsletter to everybody that I meet.
Yeah.
So because of technology, because we have all this great technology, WhatsApp in our part of the world. I'm from the Caribbean. It's a big deal. Everybody's on WhatsApp, and so once I get once I share with you whatever current newsletter I have, I send that right away on WhatsApp.
Good.
And that helps people. Now, we're not big readers in the Caribbean, but some people like this. They like to take that sneak peek every now and again, and so that has proven to be very helpful. And as well as also trying to connect with people one on one. We're very relational in this part of the world, and so yeah, having that one-to-one interface has proven to be very fruitful for us in
Yeah.
terms of that. Yeah, so those are two things from the Caribbean.
Yep. Good. Yeah. And sharing things like you mentioned, WhatsApp would let you connect everywhere in the world. Similarly, Facebook, X, Instagram, all those things. One can share a newsletter, ideally 1 or 2 pages. Don't give them 20 pages. They're not going to read it. But 1 or 2, we might read. I help support a guy who's serving in ice hockey in Russia. And I get his newsletter, and it keeps me informed as what's going on with his ministry and affirms the reason I'm donating to his ministry. That's really, really helpful. Um, pitfalls? Are there things that, oh my, please never do this? Are there any of those that you would have, David?
And, you had mentioned this earlier, and I remember being at a conference years ago with FCA, and somebody talked about how they would always approach somebody when banquet time, and
Yeah,
known as the banquet guy. Don't just approach people when you want funding. Really
good.
develop a relationship, like a lot of you have said. And I've tried not to be the banquet guy. I'd go to you. Oh, Dave's calling. He must want something. Try to meet on a
Yeah,
regular basis, build a true relationship, and
good.
so.
Good. Brad, any pitfalls that are like, ooh, please never do this? Any of those come to mind?
I just think for the new person that's raising support or raising money is if you can start out of the gate with having proper expectations. There's going to be family members that you think, oh, they're going to get behind me, and they don't. And then there's going to be complete strangers who write a huge check for you, and you're like, who are you? What are you doing? And so I've had to learn to temper my own expectations and not, I think you hear this sometimes in some of the coaching that goes on with fundraising is that you don't look at people with any sort of value significance attached to them at all by the car they drive, the house they
Hmm.
live in, or those things. Because some of my biggest, strongest donors have been the poorest people that I
Hmm.
know. In terms of, I say poor, and I don't mean to shade anyone, but in terms of American economy, you would look at them and say they're not a family of means, but they become the most faithful, consistent givers. And for longevity's sake, they often outgive sometimes the one person who gives a big one-time gift. And so that helps with the expectations. And even in terms of expectations related to that, I've learned that sometimes there's a couple kinds of givers. I have one guy, he doesn't like to support what he calls administration or
Hmm.
office costs, but he loves a good project. And so I
There you go.
save my project ideas for him. And
Good.
I went to him recently, not with a big project, but I said, "Hey, we want to get some of my books into the hands of some younger athletes, and we just want to gift them to them for their graduation. Would you mind buying at my author cost? Would you buy, 20 books for these different academies where we're working with young guys?"
Good.
He goes, "Sure." And he sent the check in the mail. It was a simple phone call, and all of a sudden we have 40 books at our disposal that we didn't have to tap into our own resources for. He
Brilliant.
provided via the Lord the means and the way. So expectations, kind of tempering those, understanding those are really helpful.
That's good. Um, just think, like you mentioned, not having an expectation of this person's wealth or lack thereof or whatever. I took in one of those year-end thank you notes. I had one guy who had been a donor like $150 a month for a few years, and he was one of those guys I sat and had coffee with one morning, and he was a little socially awkward, but we're sitting there over lunch and we're talking, and I'm honestly trying to figure out how to finish the conversation so I can go on to the next thing. And he says, "Oh, by the way, when I die, FCA is going to get like um, 500,000 from me." Pardon? I said, "Bud, I'm not anxious for you to go, but thank you very much." It just stunned me that he would be that generous toward us in a as part of his estate. Just amazing. Because looking at the guy, no one would assume he was a person of means. But because we had developed a relationship across close to 20 years, he trusted us, believed in what we were doing, and was crazy generous to us. It was amazing. Any other tips that you guys would throw? I'm going to throw out a couple here. Be very, very careful if, especially like in Brad's situation, he's serving professional players, professional coaches. When I first started with FCA, I asked the guys in St. Louis who had been serving the Rams and the Cardinals and the Blues and all those guys, said, "How do you approach fundraising related to players and coaches who are a lot of them making millions and millions of dollars a year. And he said, we never, ever ask them for anything. Never. Because our primary emphasis is we want to serve them. And if every time they see me walking up, they think I'm going to ask them for a donation, they start to avoid me. And suddenly I have no relationship. I'm out. On the other hand, if a player or a coach offers, well, then you can heartily and thankfully receive those things. But Brad, how have you found that in the professional world of sport? How do you handle the idea of players or coaches being donors to your ministry?
Yeah,
Do you make
we have a
direct
rule.
asks?
We have a rule that we don't ask. We don't ask for funding through the athletes or through the coaches that we work with professionally. Within Major League Soccer, I would say the incomes and salaries, and then through the other pyramid of professional soccer, the range of wage is a lot different than other
Sure.
pro sport within in the US, but still those wages are climbing. And so we just have a rule not to ask. We will receive,
Yeah.
but we don't even ask for athlete testimonies.
Gotcha.
We
Good.
wait until an athlete shares, hey, I'd like to do more.
Brilliant.
We certainly point them to things within the community that they can do as part of, their growth and discipleship. But again, our aim really is to care for them well, to disciple them if they're a Christian person, and and then we just trust God to kind of bring them to a point where maybe they consider supporting. Now, sometimes our chaplains look a lot like staff for the teams that they serve.
Yeah.
So I emphasize to our people, it's okay to say I'm the volunteer chaplain and say that and spell that out really slow.
Sure.
Um, but Raj, one other tip that I thought of is as just in sharing was I think one of the most effective moments for me in my ministry and fundraising was showing people where and what I do. We had a branding changeover and we did a little event at the stadium. And my parents, I'll just speak about them. They'd be okay putting their names out there. They were giving sort of a smaller monthly gift. But I took them on a tour through the stadium and I described all the different things I do during the week and then
Hmm.
on a game day. And at the end of it, my mom said, wow, we didn't realize all that you do and all the ways that you care for people. We thought you just came and watched soccer games.
Wow.
And it was a game changer for them, and they quadrupled their giving
Wow.
monthly. And it really, so I think sometimes people, giving them that vision of what we do, like if you can just walk them through that. Oftentimes people will text me during a game, hey, are you here? And then when I show up and I've got like a tie and I'm oh, you dress like this coming to the games? Yes, because I work with the executives. I'm here serving
Mm.
people. I'm not here as a fan. I'm here
Yeah.
working
Good.
as a chaplain. And again, people get that vision and they go, wow, now I understand differently something that you do that I didn't understand before.
Good. 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 Any of you other guys, any pitfalls, things to avoid doing? I have one more that I will throw in. That is I learned this by experience. Don't become too reliant upon events. Um, because if you have a bad event, if your event winds up with a deluge of rain, it's really bad to have a golf event on a rainy day. Or if it's just a snowstorm the night of your banquet, yeah, this is going to be bad. Becoming too dependent upon events can have you just riding a roller coaster of up and down and no stability. That's why David mentioned and Brad had mentioned this whole idea of recurring, ideally monthly donors. Those give you some stability in terms of cash flow that are really, really helpful to carry you through things that are happening between events. There's Events can be really, really helpful, but they can also be an albatross around your neck if you're doing them badly. Any other thoughts in summary here before we wrap things up about funding one's ministry?
Yeah, Raj, this is not really a pitfall per se, but it's just a kind of health a tip. But it could be a pitfall if you look at it. It could be a pitfall for you. So
Sure.
you got getting to know your donors, your ministry partners.
Yeah.
I should say that is really important because some of them sometimes require um, de depending on how they donate to you, they require a gentle reminder. And when you don't do that, then the money doesn't come in. And it's not that they really didn't want to do it, they just forgot. And you
Yeah.
didn't send them that reminder. That has happened to me just recently, and um, I paid financially for that. Okay, so yeah. So just having that, so it's more of a tip, but the pitfall is it doesn't really, this could be detrimental to you, right? Because you're
Yep.
looking for that. And I'm talking about your monthly givers to have that gentle reminder. Know those. They have some of them who are very organized and they know exactly what to do at a given date. And some of them would love to get that reminder at the end of the month. So that would be
Absolutely.
that was something I learned the hard way recently.
You bet. All that form of communication, sometimes they serve as prompts, sometimes they serve as almost incredible payday for the donor to see, oh, this is happening, and I had a part of that because I helped fund it. That's those things are all important. So lots and lots of communication is really important. And once again, at this time of year, it's massively important that we communicate well and we give folks opportunity to engage themselves in what we're doing. Let's wrap things up today. Thanks everyone for your kind attention and your service with us. Brad Kinney, if I may, would you please wrap things up by praying for sports chaplaincy ministries around the world as they, one, come into this season of the year that's so important, but two, that they all find the funding that is necessary to help them serve really well.
Yeah, I'd be privileged.
Thank you,
Heavenly
sir.
Father, we come before you and we lift up the men and women who around the world are giving of themselves for people in sport. Whether their title or label is chaplain or character coach or sports ministry leader, Lord, would you be with them in this critical time that our world faces as sport becomes increasingly valued, idolized, and in other ways, would you just allow us points of access and entry to love and care for people in sort of the industrialized part of it and even in the grassroots part of it to reflect your love and your witness, Jesus. And I pray that we know that funds are needed, whether it's to buy a Bible or a book or buy a meal, a cold cup of water in your name, we do need funding. And so I pray for my brothers and sisters in this season and time that you would um, open wide the storehouses, Lord, that are filled, that you own and control. The cattle on 1,000 hills are yours, and it might be nice to have a good barbecue every once in a while. And so, Lord, I just pray also too for our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world who funding and missional kind of support these ideas are not really culturally embraced or well known. Help those of us that have greater access and ability to help raise and lift them up so that their ministries might be enhanced. And Lord, all for your kingdom, all for your glory. And we give you the praise, and we will be excited to see your name carried throughout the world in these arenas, in these stadiums, in the back rooms, the locker rooms, on the sidelines, and in the other places where people in sport live and dwell and exist and play. And help us, Lord, reflect well your name, Jesus, we ask. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. Bless you. We'll talk again soon.